Welcome to the Walking Through the Word podcast with Pastor Dale Everest. This journey through the scriptures is dedicated to helping you understand God's truth and how to live out that truth in confident faith and loving obedience. We pray this podcast blesses and empowers you as you advance His kingdom. Get ready for the Word to change you.
Well, hey everybody, Pastor Dale here. Welcome to another Walking Through the Word podcast. Our wisdom word for the week is Proverbs 12:16. A fool's displeasure is known at once, but whoever ignores an insult is sensible. Again, Proverbs 12:16. A fool's displeasure is known at once, but whoever ignores an insult is sensible. Here's our poetic paraphrase for the week. Anyone can take offense at something said or done, but when you do, it's foolish. You've lost instead of won. So just ignore insulting words without recompense. It will show that you are wise and that you have good sense. One more time. Anyone can take offense at something said or done, but when you do, it's foolish. You've lost instead of won. So just ignore insulting words without recompense. It will show that you are wise and that you have good sense. You know, I got an interesting text message recently, a phone call and then a text message from a person that I've been in a relationship with since I was 22 years old. And she is a church leader in Southern California. And I had sent her, I always send her copies of anything that we publish. And I sent her a copy of wisdom words. And I just did not expect the response. She really loved it. And she messaged me and said, would it be all right with you if I used this book and these poetic paraphrases in a spoken theater presentation that we are putting together? And she said, and what would it cost us to do that? And she's very much a person of crossing T's and dotting I's, and could I get your permission to use it for that? And I wrote her back and I said, dear lady, you can use it any way you want, as much as you want, for as long as you want. And so she messaged me back how excited she was about that. So these little poetic paraphrases that we offer every week are they're meant to amplify the proverb, but I think it really helps people. We've heard from another lady, somebody we actually went to high school with, who I sent her. She's a podcast listener, and I sent her a copy of it, and she's enjoying it and sharing it with the women in her Bible study group. So you just don't know. My point is not in saying how great the poetic paraphrases are. My point is to say, do what God calls you to do, because you just never know how many lives it's going to touch and how many ways that God will use it. All right, well, meditate on the wisdom word for the week and memorize it as the Lord leads. Our worship word for the week is Psalm 35, 1-3. This is an amazing psalm, a psalm of David. And it's a psalm of lament and a protest of innocence. Like Psalm 94, this psalm by David places an unusual emphasis on the role of his enemies. It could sometimes be called an imprecatory psalm, a psalm of imprecation or judgment. And David has a little bit of life underneath his belt by this point, but it doesn't matter if you're older or younger. This is a wonderful psalm, and it was the basis for our word for the day yesterday. Any enemy, any time. I hope that was an encouragement to you. But here it is as our worship word for the week. Plead my cause, O Lord, and that plead means to contend for me. Fight for me according to what is right. Plead my cause, O Lord, with those who strive with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler. What a picture of God taking up weapons, and stand up for my help. Also draw out the spear and stop those who pursue me. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. And I just think it's a great way for us to begin our day in the secret place, to recognize that the Lord is the avenger of his people, and that you and I can trust that when we're standing on the Lord's side, the Lord is standing on our side. If we get ourselves away from the word and the will and the ways and the work of God, we wind up in a place where God's not able to do what he could do for us. But when we stay connected to him, walking things out in the way that he desires, we can be confident in this very thing, that God will fight for us and he will fight with us. It's ultimately the Lord's battle, but the Lord is fighting for us, and he's fighting with us, because we have to engage the battle, but we don't do it by our own wisdom or our own work. We do it by the wisdom of the Lord and the work of the Lord. All right. Well, our Psalms reading for today is Psalm 35, 10 to 18. Verse 10, all my bones shall say, Lord, who is like you, delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him? Yes, the poor and the needy from him who plunders him. Fierce witnesses rise up. They ask me things that I do not know. They reward me evil for good, to the sorrow of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting, and my prayer would return to my own heart. I paced about as though he were my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily as one who mourns for his mother. So David's saying the very same people who are rising up against me are people I've interceded for. But in my adversity, they rejoiced. They didn't pay good for good. They paid evil for good, and gathered together. Attackers gathered against me, and I did not know it. They tore at me, and I did not cease. With ungodly mockers at feasts, they gnashed at me with their teeth. Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue me from their destructions, my precious life from the lions. I will give you thanks in the great assembly. I will praise you among many people. So David knew what it was to be in conflict. He knew what it was to be under attack. And for you and me, sometimes the attack is human, but oftentimes and most times it is from the demonic realm. And we can fight, because God is fighting for us, and he's fighting with us, and we can not only fight, we can be victorious each and every day. Every day has its own battles. I wish I could tell you it was other than that, but in one way or another, you're going to be fighting for something or against something every day. But always remember, the battle belongs to the Lord. And then Proverbs 12:11 is our Proverbs reading. He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity is devoid of understanding. Yeah, we have to put the work in by God's grace and by God's goodness and through God's greatness, but we've got to put our hand to the plow. But if you can see, when your hand is on the plow, the Lord's hand is on your hand, helping you and leading you and guiding you. That's a very encouraging thought. And then read 1 Corinthians 11, 1 to 12. And Paul's just talking about proper order here in the church. He is not, as some have said, anti-woman, and when he's talking about a head covering, that's a symbol of authority. If a woman is walking in proper alignment under the authority of God and under the authority of her husband and men in leadership, all of us working together, God is going to bring order. Because what God is after, what Jesus is after, is that everyone, men and women alike, would walk in divine order. That they would walk in proper alignment. Who's over you in leadership? Who's under you in who's next to you in partnership? Who's under you in stewardship? The issue is that we are submitting one to another and submitting ultimately to the Lord Jesus. And then Nehemiah, where we find our word for the day, which is reform and remembrance. Reform and remembrance. And as I have gotten to this day, which happens to be my 68th birthday, I've just been, even in the night hours, asking the Lord, what do you want to do with the rest of my life? How do you want me? How do you want me to focus? And the Lord's really helping me to understand what my primary lane is going into the future and how I can be the most helpful to people. There's some really strong insights the Lord has given me in recent days about day-by-day victory that I think will be a blessing, and receiving one another in the things that tend to be tend to be areas in our life where we have weakness, or areas in our life where we have tendencies. I'll talk more about that in a message upcoming. But Nehemiah, this was an incredibly important thing, the most important thing that he ever did in his life. And we read about the reforms of Nehemiah, and we come to this verse 14 that says, "Remember me, O God, O my God, consider this, and do not wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for its services." He was the man of the hour, just like Ezra was the man of the hour. And he worked tremendous reforms, and God certainly did remember him. Part of the reason we're reading it today is because God remembered him. And God not only remembered him, he rewarded him, not only in this life, but in the life to come. And Nehemiah hasn't even received the fullness of his rewards as he will when we all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. So I just want to say to you, do the work God has called you to do. Be a reformer. Work for reformation, as we are trying to work for reformation in the church in the area of the gospel. Put those first things first. Answer to the call of God on your life, and know that God will bless the work of your hands, and he will remember it, and he will reward it. All right, well, God bless you. We love you. Have a great day in Jesus.